Hello, everybody. Welcome to our case study analysis. I am Sebastian Nunez.
I'm Isaac Gonzalez.
I'm Rose Pino.
I'm Jessica Mason.
I'm Valerie Mendoza.
I'm Nayeli Jimenez.
And this is our case study analysis.
So I will actually be in charge of the introduction. I first wanted to go about saying who is doing what. I will be doing the introduction. Isaac will be doing our background. Rose will be doing our evaluation. Jessica will be doing our proposed solutions and changes. And Valerie will be doing our recommendations. And last but not least, Nayeli will be doing our conclusions. Now, initially, we didn't actually choose the case study that we chose. We initially chose case study number 6, which was I believe, the misfit, but because of like a weird thing that went on when we chose it, it had already been chosen. So we then decided to go on and choose a different case study, which was case study number 2, keeping tuition low. And although we all didn't really choose that one because we had to do it on a bit of a time crunch. That one was kind of just the best option as we are all college students and we, in a way, could relate to the actual case study. So basically, in keeping tuition low, the state university decides to hire on more staff. And the reason why they decide to do this is just so some of the students can have more one-on-one time with each of the teachers. But as good as that is, it would not come at a cheap price, quite literally. The school would actually, most likely than not, have to raise their tuition prices in order to hire on that staff. Because they wanted the opinions of the actual students attending their school, they created the Associates of Student Governance created a task force with 5 students, Celeste, Sarah, Alex, Bart, and Tisha, in order to get their opinions and for them to overtly make a decision for the entire school. But this in itself would come with its own set of problems as many, if not all of these students that went into the group already had their mind made up about the decision. Celeste was one of the only people in the group to have a very open mind, whereas Sarah had her own influence and the influence of the friends around her to keep tuition low. Whereas Alex and Bart didn't really care, and Tisha wanted the tuition to go higher as she thought that a higher education should cost more. The main problem with this is that as they all go in with their own personal opinions, they're not really looking at the benefits and the cons that would actually come with hiring a bigger staff, even if it meant raising the tuition. But next up, kind of giving more information on that is Isaac.
In this case study, keeping tuition low, there are several very important facts and issues. The case study focuses on a college, which is the State University, which is planning on increasing its tuition next year by a very noticeable amount. In order to fund the increase, the increase of faculty members, the college is deciding on hiring more faculty so they can become a nationally top-ranked university. But some students work that this is would change the significant increase in tuition. The Association of Student Governance president appointed 5 students to start the task force so they can increase and decide whether or not the ASG would give their support if tuition were to increase. The 5 students all share their opinion about the tuition increase, in which the students had their own thoughts due to their personal situation. Our group instantly recognized when analyzing this case study that Celeste was the best stated opinion due to her stating the group's issue and that the best course of action going forward. Up next, Rose with the evaluation.
Hi, I'm Rose, and I will be presenting the evaluation of our case study analysis. When I read the case study, I located the strengths and weaknesses of the group that then we discussed as a group together and came to a consensus that yes, this is their strengths and weaknesses as a group. One of their strengths is their strong leadership. We felt that this was actually their strongest strength, was that they had such a capable leader in Celeste who had communication studies background, who knew how to lead a group, and herself had an open mind about whether to support or not support the raise in tuition. Another strength the group had was access to information. They had information that they could easily access to because they were evaluating the tuition raise of a public university. So a lot of the things they needed to have information to evaluate whether or not they would support it was free online. And they also, each individually as group members in the task force, had different life experiences, whether they had not a lot of money or a lot of money, or just different life experiences that they brought to the table to make sure that everyone's voice was heard and that they were good representation of the school. Another weakness that we located in them, however, was that they all went in with preconceived opinions. These opinions were very strong, and that some of them were even decided, which was their next weakness, on what they would vote in the committee. Some people like Sarah went in with very strong opinions and decided on whether she would support or not support. And she cared a lot, which was another weakness of their group, is that some members cared too much and some not at all. Some cared enough to leave the group if it didn't go in their favor of what they were wanting to vote, and some did not have any preference at all or care. The group members, after evaluating them, this is how their group dynamic worked and their own personal opinions and background. Celeste was their leader, who had a communications major background, so she knew about group communication, and she went into the group with an open mind because she knew that's how she would lead the group successfully into making this decision that would represent their school. Sarah, on the other hand, was a teaching major who was a recent community college grad and went in with a very strong opinion against the raise, who said that if it went for supporting the raise, she would leave the group. Alex was a music major who was soon to transfer to a different school, so he didn't care whether the tuition would raise or not because he would soon be leaving. Tisha had her tuition paid for by her grandparents, but her decision was still split. She wanted the college to improve, which costs money, but she also, after hearing the arguments of the group members, specifically Sarah, she wanted to make sure college was still affordable. So she went back and forth on that decision. Bart was a pre-med major and money was no issue for him. So again, he did not care. So in summary, the group was very divided and needed to unite in a consensus on whether or not they would support the tuition raise. My end evaluation of the group would be to try to get group members to keep an open mind, listen to their group leader, which I think is their strongest strength, that they had such a capable and knowledgeable leader, evaluate unbiased information that they found easy access to online, listen to one another's opinions and experiences respectfully, and make sure that they are representing the ASG together, because that opinion will affect all the other students. Next up, we will have Jessica presenting more on solutions.
Hi, I'm Jessica, and here are some of our solutions on creating the best decision method concerning the rise in tuition. So first, the first solution we thought of as a group was to inform all the students who are going to be affected by this change. Each student that will be affected by this change needs to be informed by the pros and cons. Any student who is paying such a large amount in tuition should at least be knowledgeable on what they're paying for, what those changes are, especially when they're investing so much for their education in that school. They should be involved with everything. We also decided that they should obtain a general opinion from each student. This can be from like a survey or anything, just to get a general understanding of each student's thoughts on this change. The school will be able to understand what is at loss and the benefits, and they can choose if they want to move on with that decision. Next slide. So the benefits of our solution, the school will be respecting the paying students' opinions. They'll be allowing the students to be heard. The students will feel like they have a say, which they should, especially since they're going to be paying that much. And the school can know how many students are at loss with such a change. A lot of students might have to drop out because of the rise in tuition. They might not be able to afford it. So the surveys would be a really good way to find out how many students are at loss and how many students are on board with it too, just to see what are the benefits of making that decision so harshly. And so, yes, overall, we believe that every student should be asked their opinion, just so that the school knows what they're doing before they get into it.
So this is our recommendations. Some recommendations that we would say is to understand those who are being affected by this tuition increase. In this case, it would be all the students that go to the university. And to get their opinion, because overall their decision is going to be based off of a student's best interest, and if they gather the opinions of all the other students around the university, they can get a better idea of what's probably a best decision. And if majority of the students are against the idea of the tuition increase, they can create a petition to try to go against it and fight it off. Next slide. Some ways to understand the students' opinions are to talk about the tuition increase with other students. They can go around the school, let others know about the tuition increase in case they didn't know about it. And they can do this by handing out flyers around the campus. This helps those who are unaware become aware about the increase. And just like Jessica said, they can create surveys for the students. That way they can get a basic idea of where the students stand with tuition increase. And next would be Nayeli.
Overall, in regards to the case study, we as a group chose keep the tuition low, although you guys may know since Sebastian had mentioned the introduction that it was not one of our first options. In the case study, there were many people in the group, but one of the main persons that had stood out was Celeste, which was the main leader. She was known as a group leader who seems to be a born leader with her effective ways of group communication. She tries and maintains a group on task, although as we all know, groups have their ups and downs when it comes to coming to agreement with the decision making, especially if your group is opening to hearing ideas and taking each other's opinion into consideration, which was not the case for this group. Group members were going into the discussion with their minds already made up and not taking anybody else's point of view into consideration. As we know, their research was about keeping the tuition low. The group was able to find good information in regards to it online. Although they had much information as a group, they did take their time to evaluate to find their best solution to complete their goal. Overall, some recommendations are to grab people's attention, specifically those who are in need of having more information in regards to the tuition. As well as making posters, polls, and just to be able to bring any attention to their eyes in front of them and have them realize what they can do or what's going on in their case. And then with this case study, we all learned something, which was being able to find ways to keep the school tuition lower, trying to help ways to keep the school tuition low. As students, we should always try and empower that and find ways, even though it's not us, there's many people around us who might need help within that situation.
Thank you.